Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. First thing we're going to take a look at here is IBM is going to stop hiring for roles that can be replaced by artificial intelligence. 8,000 workers are going to be replaced by automation or artificial intelligence. This is just one company out there. It says 1 month ago, to much dismay and widespread denial, Goldman predicted that AI could lead to some 300 million layoffs among highly paid non-menial workers in the United States and Europe. 300 million people. So I guess the only people that are going to be working soon are people who are making robots that are controlled by artificial intelligence, and people who are somehow, in some way or another, working with the artificial intelligence itself as support people, support and tech people that just work on the AI. And it's going to fire some 300 million people. What do they do with all these millions of people now? Working from home is just an interim thing. It's the first step, you know? I mean, take a look at what happened with COVID, and everybody left the office jobs and everything and started working at home. What really do they do? If you're working at home on a computer, what are you doing that AI couldn't do? You should ask yourself that. Could AI, artificial intelligence, type the keyboard like I type the keyboard at home when I'm working from home? Could AI work the mouse just like I work it from home? And have I suddenly found myself not needed anymore? If you work from home, you have to ask yourself that question. Or could, in the very near future, my job be not needed anymore because it's done by AI? So what's their plan for all these millions and millions of people? It says here 300 million people. That's nearly the population of the entire United States. What's the plans for these people in the future? If robots can plow the fields, okay? If robots can work as a cash register person, if robots can work as policing even, if robots can do all these things, the only place you're going to find work is in the robot factory. And artificial intelligence, this is just going to explode. The amount of power, computing power that artificial intelligence actually has. So my question really is, what are we going to do with all these people out there then? What are they going to, I should say, what are they going to do with all these people out there that are superfluous? Retrain them or what? I just don't know. But I do know we're going through fantastically large changes right now to a structure of our society as this new tech comes online. And comes online might be all the way through. Well, basically what I'm trying to get across to you guys is all the way through history, when something comes online, you know, all the way through the history of our internet, going back to like the year, I don't know, 1985, you know, when we started getting computers and stuff in a massive way. When something comes online, it's always programmed by humans. So that's what we're used to. It's a slow tech development because it has to be done by humans. It has to be done by human programmers. It has to be done by people. But suddenly we're in this thing where it's not being done by people anymore. Programming now, very soon, will be done by computer. And so when you got artificial intelligence programming itself online, and you don't even know what in the heck it's doing, you don't know what it's programming. And what it's creating so fast at this, like we move our technology when we have to do it ourselves here, right? and we have to program in and make a new whatever software or whatever, it takes a lot of time. I mean, just ask any game developer that develops a game, you know. Sometimes they're in 2-3 years in development of just one video game. Human developers. But imagine when AI can do that. When AI can program a video game, you just go in, you type in the parameters of what you want the video game to be like. 30 seconds later, the video game's completed. It doesn't take 2 years of programming. Now, you take that idea or that concept of how fast AI can move with technology, and you take a look at what the effect it's going to be on us. That's what I'm saying. And it's hard to get ahead of this thing because it's moving so fast. And this is the danger, this is part of the danger of AI. The danger is how quick it's going to move our technological advancement. But as far as AI killing all of us, you know, they're out there to frighten fearmongers out there. Oh, AI's going to kill everybody. No, I don't think it's going to kill everybody. You know, like some sort of monster out of Terminator movie or something like that. No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But technological advancement sometimes can move too fast and put a lot of people out of work suddenly. Now, if people lose their jobs slowly over a period of time, it's not such a bad, not such a terrible, doesn't create a crisis. In other words, what I'm saying. But if 300 million people lose their jobs almost simultaneously, 300 million people, then you got a problem in society. Okay, we're going to move on. I don't want to beat that to death, but I mean, that's real. It's happening right now. America's empire is bankrupt. This is the next subject we're going to talk about here. The dollar is finally being dethroned. But they're talking about it here, and I agree with most of the things. I'm going to read some of the highlights of this article, and I agree with most of the things it says in this article, except the time frame. And I know I get time frames off a lot. I get the timing off on things a lot. A lot of my shows I produce, everything I say over the last number of years is slowly coming true. But I've got time frames off a lot. You know, like when's it going to happen? And that's just the hard part. This is the really hard part to tell you exactly when it's going to happen. But here's the thing. In here, they're putting a time frame. They're thinking this is going to take a long time for the dollar to be dethroned. I tend to think that it's going to come pretty quick now at this point. It's taken a long time to get here. Kind of like, you know, the kids in the back seat, you know, Mom, when are we going to get there? Traveling across America. You know, you got like 2,000 miles. You're traveling across the Midwest and stuff. And the kids are in the back seat and they're like, we can't stand it. Traveling from the West to the East Coast. I think it's going to take forever to get there. You know? And it does. It takes a long time. But once you arrive at this, say they're heading to New York. Once they arrive on the city limits of New York City, then you're there. It's practically then you're at it. And this is the way it's been since 1914 until now. It's been a long time getting here to the demise of the dollar. But now we're arriving. We're arriving and the conditions are right now. So even though we've been through this long wait to get to this point, from here forward might go really quick. It might only take a year or two. Whereas it took like well in excess of 100 years to get to this point. Now we're here. We're here, we're at the demise of the dollar. So let's just read a few highlights of this. But remember, there's one thing I disagree with this, and I disagree on the timing. They think it's going to take a long time. But they can see the circumstances that are leading to the demise of the dollar. They see it now. What I've saw for 7 or 8 years ago, I knew that this was coming. I told you guys on here. Many times I told you guys, years and years ago, They're starting to see it now. And you know, when they're starting to see it, the people out there in general are starting to see it. This is going to rush its demise, because then they're all going to say, hey, you know what? I ain't saving this currency. Okay, so it says a very small fraction of humanity, until quite recently, enjoyed about this small fraction, which represents America, which is roughly 5% of the human race. They live in the United States of America. They're only a small fraction of humanity, but they enjoy a third of the world's energy resources they consume. So 5% of the world is consuming 1/3 or 33% of the energy resources. And manufacturing products are consuming a third of the manufacturing products, so 33%. So 5% is consuming 33% all the way around of new production, raw materials, a quarter of everything they're consuming. So what are they using to purchase this small fraction of humanity? What are they using to purchase about a third of the world's everything? They're using a Federal Reserve note, which is backed by nothing and based on nothing. It's kind of like that back in Seinfeld. They talked about making a show about nothing. This is a show about nothing. This is a show about a Ponzi scheme that's been run for over 100 years. And we're right to the inflection point where the whole world is going to see that it's nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. And they're going to ditch it. That's basically what we're talking about here. It says the mechanism the United States uses for this latter purpose is ingenious but short-term at most. It says sooner or later you run out of suckers to draw in. In other words, you always have to need new fresh money to come in to support a Ponzi scheme. And you know, right now, right at this moment, they're trying to get things back online again by withdrawing liquidity from this Ponzi scheme, which is only going to make things a lot worse. It says, for many decades now, the threat of being cut out of international trade by U.S. sanctions was a big stick Washington used to threaten unruly nations that weren't small enough for a U.S. invasion or fragile enough for CIA-backed regime change operations. And it says, in short, America's bankrupt. That's what it says. The good news, it says that there's a solution to all this. The bad news is it's going to take a couple decades of serious turmoil to get there. Now, here's where it gets interesting, guys. They're thinking it's going to take a couple decades of serious turmoil. It says a solution that the United States economy will retool itself to produce earned wealth in the form of real goods and non-financial services. That'll happen inevitably. And I believe that too. America's going to get back on its feet. Industry's going to come back here again. We're going to start actually making things again. It says that'll happen inevitably. As the flows of unearned wealth falter, foreign goods become unaffordable to most Americans, and it becomes profitable to produce things here in the United States again. Right? But they're thinking that this is going to take 2 decades or 20 years to happen. I say necessity is the mother of invention. And I say necessity forces things much faster than 20 years. Also, the downfall of America, I think, could happen much faster. The downfall being us going into a hyperinflation. And the disruption that would cause. Tremendous disruption. But that's what I think it's going to take to get people up off their butts and say, hey, you know what? This does not work to just collect money from the government and sit on my ass. You got to get up and you got to have a job and you got to go into the factory and build stuff so the rest of the world wants. And well, that's what China realized, and that's what China did. But, you know, I mean, they were selling to America for dollars that were worthless. And then basically what they've done is they've got tired of that, giving America all these products for something that has no intrinsic value whatsoever. In other words, they're on to us. just joking, but that's true. They're actually getting on to us now, and that's because we're using that big stick. It turns out that they're the guys who have been buying stuff for... See, Chinese produce a lot of the goods that China come from China. There's a stamp on it that says made in China. And you go to use it, you know. And I'll use a hammer as an example, and the head fly off the hammer the first time you use it. I remember made in America goods. A made in America hammer or a pair of shoes practically lasts you forever. Get made in China goods, they break very soon. You better put a pair of Chinese made shoes on, you walk in the first day and there's a split in the sole. Say, why is my foot getting wet? You look up and the sole's split in half, the shoe. You know, or you use a hammer and the head flies off the hammer the first time you use it. It's just... But, you'd say, okay, they're cheating us. No, they're not cheating you. They're not cheating you at all. In fact, they're getting the short end of the stick, even though those goods are like substandard shoddy merchandise. Still, they're getting the short end of the stick, and the reason why is because what we're paying for those goods is worth absolutely nothing. The Federal Reserve note. And they've been stockpiling them. All those years, we were shipping things from China over Amazon and everything. Then they've been taking dollars for it all, with a trade deficit. Okay, but it's worth nothing. So the old saying, you get what you pay for. So you're paying them with counterfeited money. You should expect to get stuff that's not up to par snuff. Anyway, so moving on here. Let's take a look at the silver price today, because I'm getting in a rut here, and I've been 17 minutes already. Man, time flies when you're having fun. Telling you guys about what's coming. What's coming? The hyperinflation's coming down the road. But there's ways out, and here's one of the ways out. I can't not express to you guys enough that there is no upper limit to how high prices can go for gold and silver and cryptos in a hyperinflationary depression. There's no upper limit priced in dollars because the dollar is on its way to zero. And so what this will enable you to do is, if you've got real physical silver and gold or things that are non-dollar denominated assets that do not have any counterparty risk, what this will enable you to do is navigate your way through the crisis if you're smart and you use your head. Where other people won't be able to navigate their way through it. They're going to lose their homes, lose their cars. They're going to be upset. They're not going to be hardly able to feed themselves. They might end up on the street if they don't have this stuff. This stuff will enable you to navigate. It'll give you, when your dollars don't do anything for you anymore, this stuff will give you something that enables you to navigate your way through the crisis. And that's why this is so important. This is insurance against a very fast-moving crisis that's coming in the fiat currencies, in the dollar. This is insurance. So on the short term, what does it matter if the prices fluctuates a little bit up and down? And they're still suppressing the price, guys. That's why it's down 28 cents today. The big bullion banks suppress the price of this using paper short contracts. But ultimately, they're going to lose control over the price when the dollar starts to hyperinflate. And you say, well, when's that coming? The deterioration of the dollar is already in effect. It's just slowly getting worse and worse. It's very insidious and it's very slow, the movement of this thing so far. And it's taken over 100 years. But We're at the point of inception now where it's going to start to move faster and faster. Where more people realize, hey, you know what? These dollars, I can't save in them any longer. So they start to spend it. We're seeing the velocity of money go up. I could go to the velocity of money charts and show you guys the velocity of money starts to go up. And money starts to move. Even in a depression. It's... The Fed's pushing on a string now. As far as what they get when they borrow a dollar into existence. Less and less on the other end. That's why they're borrowing more and more money all the time. The latest thing that they're trying to work through is over $4 trillion. They're trying to get the debt limit raised. And during the Obama administration, it was $1.9 trillion that they borrowed, and I thought that was an absolutely exorbitant amount. Now they borrow, and they don't even talk about it. They borrow $4 or $5 trillion, or more than double, just since previous administrations. Just a few years it went by, very few years. That's how this is growing. It's doubling in its potency. Just between Obama and where we're at right now with this administration, the potency of this thing is more than doubled the amount of leverage in the system. Because the amount that they borrow is directly correlated to the amount of leverage that's in the system. And it's that leverage, ladies and gentlemen, that is causing the system instabilities. It wants to crash. And they got to keep pumping money in to keep it from crashing. Because the more leverage you have, the more something has pressure to pop. It very much works very much like a steam kettle, you know, or a pressure cooker. They got a little valve on the top of a pressure cooker, a little weight that goes on top of the thing, goes and lets the air out so that pressure doesn't build. Now, if you block that off, you were to take that little valve off the top of your pressure cooker and put a screw in there so the air can't get out, and then put it on the stove full of water and put the heat on high. You know? That's leverage in the system. That's what the leverage is doing inside the financial system. It's building pressure. Just like in the pressure cooker. Now, it's a no-brainer. You all guys know what would happen if you did that in your kitchen. The pressure cooker's on there, and the valve is blocked, and the air can't get out, and the pressure builds, and all of a sudden, boom! It blows the cupboards off your kitchen. One little pressure cooker on the stove that's blocked like that, and the air can't escape. When it blows, goodbye kitchen, or half of your kitchen. You don't want to be in there when that happens. A pressure cooker on the stove with a block relief nozzle. And this is what's going to happen to the system when the leverage gets to a certain point. Leverage in derivatives, leverage. The system is completely over-leveraged at this point right now. 2008, the system was leveraged, but not like now. Now it's like 4 or 5, 6 times. All they've done is doubled down. It's just the same thing as a casino. You know, there's certain casino players, and if they want to keep doubling down, you keep doubling down until they win. They're just doubling down every time, and the leverage is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this leverage creates volatility in all asset classes until it breaks. And now they're pulling the legs out from under it. It should be a no-brainer. She's gonna blow. She's going to blow. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to do when it blows, but it's going to blow. Bitcoin, 28,025. And Ethereum's at 1831 today. If we take a look now at the Dow Jones averages, it's down 90 points at 34,062. Taking a look at crude oil, 74.98. It's down 68 cents. Bonds and rates today. What we're looking at is falling yields on the long end. We're looking at a U.S. 10-year at 3.51. It's down 5.5 basis points, and the U.S. 30-year at 3.77, down 4.7 basis points. Boy, look at my lovely hair. Oh, it's gone now. You guys missed that. Oh, there it is again. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Behind my head. Anyway, taking a look at the U.S. dollar index, 102.30 on the U.S. dollar index, and the dollar is going up today a little bit. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.